We have done a lot of programming in our previous classes, and now we are into a new topic, which is class and object. By the way, I can say that this is like a heart of learning Java. You have to master in knowing what is a class and what is an object, because most probably every time when we speak about a Java programming language, either we speak about a class or an object, because this is in our day-to-day life of Java programming. The other concepts that you learn in Java may or may not come in your daily life of programming, but a class and object, once you start writing, even if you want to print hello world, even if you want to print my first program, etc., etc., you should create a class. And if you need to speak or if you need to work on non-static variables or methods, you would need the object. Okay, without any further delay, I would like to actually go into explaining you about what is a class and object. What is a class and object? So, as I told you, this is a very, very important class. This is a very, very important class, and I want your full concentration. I want your full concentration on today's class. So before I actually write a few things about this class and object, I would like to say there is a debate that actually goes on. Uh, oops. Yeah. So we have something called OOPS, which is a short form for object oriented programming. Object oriented programming. Okay. OOPS. Like I can say OOP, and generally people call it as object oriented programming principles, or you can say the style. Okay. Object oriented programming language. So generally people will say Java is a object oriented programming language. Is a object oriented programming language. Java is a object oriented programming language, which is nice. Object is something that is present as our agenda for today, which is the class and object, which is a class and object. So the point that I wanted to actually mention is this topic that we are going to learn today is so much important that whenever somebody wants you to speak about Java, you would like to say, or you would like to start that Java is a object-oriented programming language. Now, there are a few people or few other students or few other learners or teachers, they would come and say that after Java 8, Java has become a functional programming language. Okay, it is no more an object-oriented programming language. So one clarity that I'd like to give you is, yes, Java is supporting the functional programming, but that doesn't mean that we are going away from this object-oriented programming principles. Okay, so what is functional programming? What is object-oriented programming, right? Let's not go into full details of these right now in this class, but maybe let's park it for some other day. Okay, but right now our topic is to learn about classes and objects. I can say class and object. Okay, so very simple, very simple, very simple. So what is our agenda for today? What is our agenda for today? Maybe I'll be writing one by one. So we'll be learning about what is a class, right? This is our first topic. And then we'll be learning about what is an object. Okay, we'll be learning about what is a class. We'll be learning about what is an object. And the third one is how to create an object. This is something that we'll be learning about. And the fourth point is how to invoke, how to invoke instance, or we can either say call. How do you call or invoke the instance methods or variables? Instance methods or variables. When you say instance, so I'd like to say when you say something is instance, Instance means non-static. Non-static. We have seen static variables, we have seen static methods, some explanation about all that, etc., etc. But when I say something is instance, then if it is not a static, then that qualifies to be an instance. That qualifies to be an instance. That qualifies to be an instance. So before I give you what is a class, what is an object, what are the formal definitions of the same, and how to create an object, or how do you call those objects, I mean, how do you call the non-static methods or non-static variables? All right. Before I give you the total details of all these, let's speak, or let's delve into a bit of theory of what is a class and object. Let me open the notes that I have written. Let me open the notes that I have written. Let's not go over here. I'd like to show you a small I'd like to show you a small picture, right? What are you what are you seeing over here is what are you seeing over here is objects. When I say objects, these are some objects that we see in the real world, right? I can see a pencil, I can see an apple, I can see a book, I can see a bag, I can see a board. The point is, all these objects are real world objects. You can see them, you can touch them, you can feel them, etc., etc. So these are objects. These exist really. These exist in the real world, right? These are a few real world examples of objects. Okay. Now I have seen something about an object. Sir, okay, I understand. In programming, maybe even though at this moment I do not understand what exactly an object is, but maybe I'll think an object is a pencil or an apple or a book or a bag or a board. But then what about class, sir? What about class, sir? What should I correlate my class with? What should I correlate with my class with? I would give you one more example. One more example. One more example. What is the relation between a class and a object? What is the relation between a class and a object? So let's suppose, or before I give you this example, just think that you want to construct a home. You have a piece of land, or let's say you want to buy an apartment, right? You have some cash with you. Now the option is, you would go to a builder, either constructing your own home or buying an apartment. You go to a builder and tell tell him your specifications. Okay, I want 1,000 square feet home, individual home, or I want a 2 BHK apartment. I want a 3 BHK apartment. I want two balconies. Okay, I want a east facing apartment. So all these things are your requirements. Then what the person or what the salesperson will do is, he will open his booklet, or he will take a pen and paper, and he will start drawing, right? Or he will show you the picture that is already drawn. It is not the actual home or actual what do you call it is not the actual apartment, it is not the actual flat. He's just showing you some diagram saying that, okay, here the kitchen comes, here the hall comes, here this one comes, here that one comes, etc., etc. The point is, that is not a real world object, but that is just like a blueprint. That is just like a blueprint. Okay, so if there is something like a blueprint, and in future that would be converted into a that would be converted into a real-time object, then that is called as a class. Okay, so class is nothing but a blueprint. Class is nothing but a blueprint. Maybe I'd like to give you one more example. So the actual home or actual apartment is an object. Okay, the plan of the apartment or the plan of the flat is nothing but the plan of that apartment or plan of that house is nothing but class. Okay, these are just a few examples for you to remember, for you to actually remember. If I go down, if I go down, so how is a class related to an object? How is a class related to an object? Class is nothing but an instance of an object. So class is an instance of an object. Class, as I told you, will be having some blueprint. Now let's say I want to build a car. I want to build a car. I want to build a red car. I want to build a red car. So first what should happen is there should be some blueprint. There should be some blueprint that, okay, this is how the car should look like. Okay, without any color. And this is how the wheel should look like, etc. etc. Now, the car on paper will look something like this. And it has some properties like color, price, kilometers, model, and car will do a few things like it will start, it will go back, it will move forward, it will stop when you apply brakes. And all these are some functionalities and these are some properties, right? All these are on piece of paper. All these are on piece of paper. Now, let's say a company, let's say like an Audi comes and says, okay, now I have the piece of paper or now I have the design ready. Let me create the real car. Let me create the real car. Okay, that real car is nothing but the object. And whatever is the plan that is present, that is nothing but a class. That is nothing but a class. So very, very simple. Very, very simple. The theory is not very tough. The theory is not really tough. The theory is not really very tough. Very simple theory. Very simple theory. I would like to just go to one more place and would like to show you one more real-time example to understand what is a class and object. To understand what is a class and object. Okay. So now let's say you all get a job in a very decent company. Let's say there are so many students. We have nearly 25 students who attend our classes, okay, regularly. Now, let's say there is some interview drive that happened to you guys, and you all got placed into very good software companies, okay, very good software companies. Now, there are a few students who got placed into, let's say, a company like Google, a few placed into Amazon, few placed into Infosys, few placed into TCS. Like everyone as friends, you attended this class, and let's say you got a job in various companies. Now, one fine day, maybe your company, your respective company wants to offer you some free medical insurance, let's say. But for that, let's say they want you to go to a diagnostic center and and what do you call give your blood samples, etc., etc. I'm just giving you some hypothetical example. Now, what will happen is that that blood test center owner, what he will do is he wants to take the details of all you employees, right? He will go to one Xerox shop and say that I will have one form, something like this. There is a name, there is an ID, and a company, right? There are three columns, right? There are three columns. With all these details, what he will do is he will take maybe let's say 50 copies, or he will take let's say 100 copies. He will take all of those. He will take all of those, and then he will keep everything ready. That that Xerox shop or that blank paper with these details, right? That is an example of a class. That is an example of a class because it is just a blueprint. It just has the outliners, or it just is having some placeholders for the details that you'd be filling in future. Now let's say the date came one fine Saturday morning or one fine Sunday morning. You all went to that diagnostic center, and the owner of that shop or the diagnostic center wants you to fill a few details. If I come down, let's say there is one person, one student who attend this class, let's say got into a company of Google. Now he fills the form saying ID is equal to 100, name is equal to Mercy, and then company is Google, which is fine. Now one Xerox shop or one paper is filled. Now let's say some other student comes and he fills with this details, Angel and IBM. Some other student has come and then he's having some employee ID as 300, working in a company called Apple, and the name is Joseph. Similarly, there are so many other people who filled that form and has given that to that shopkeeper. The point is, the unfilled form is like a class. Okay, it is just a blueprint. But the filled form is like an object. It is something that is existing in the real world. You are instantiating that class and creating this object with all these details, and this is one such example. This is one such example. So all this is just some real world what you call analogy I wanted to tell, so that you guys are well versed with the topics or with the terminology that we are learning as part of our today's class. This is very easy. This is very easy to actually understand, or to actually what you call correlate with. The theory is also very easy for us to correlate with. Now let's go to now let's go to let's go to our class notes. Sir, our general programming practices, or our general uh, what you call general practice that we do till now is, you will actually tell us the theory, and after that you will give us some syntax. You would be giving some syntax. Okay, please tell that syntax, sir. That's fine. How do you create a class, by the way? How do you create a class, by the way? That we have already seen, right? How do you create a class? We have created so many classes. We have created so many classes. And one such example is this Mercy class 8, etc. etc. We have created so many classes. If somebody wants you to create a new class, you would very well be taking the pen and paper and would be writing a class. Okay. In a very good syntax, following all the naming conventions that you have learned till now. But there is a syntax for it, right? There is a syntax for it, right? So what is that syntax? Or maybe I'd like to go to my PPT. Okay, I'd like to go to my PPT. Let me just go to the actual definition of class before I go into give me a second, guys. Okay. Yeah, before I even go into what is one more second. Yeah, before I actually go into what is the syntax for a class, I would like to give you some formal definitions of class. Now, if somebody asks you a question, sir, what is a class? What is an object? Now you know theoretically what is a class and what is an object. But if you tell all this story to the interviewer, or if you tell all this story to the person who has asked, then that doesn't look good, because he might think that, okay, you know the concept, but you don't know the definitions, right? Not knowing both is equally bad. Okay, if you know the proper definitions and if you do not know all these things in the real-time terminology, then that is also bad, because there's no point of learning a definition. Now, let's say you understood the concept completely, okay, but you do not know what is the formal definition. Even then, that is bad, because nobody will select you in the interview. So for that, what I did is I will be giving you, I will be giving you some formal definitions of what is a class. Let me go one by one. Class is the template for object that we have already seen. It is like a plan for a home, or it is like a plan for a car, or it is like a empty what do you call a booklet or empty form, employee form that you would be filling. That example that I've given. Let's go to the next one. Class is a blueprint that I have already told you, right? Class is a pattern or specification which we can define the functionality. It is a pattern or specification, right? Which we can define the functionality. This is one more way of telling what a class is, right? If I go to the next one, class is a logical entity, and class does not exist physically. There is only some logic behind the class, and it does not exist physically, which means you cannot touch the class. Like you can touch the apple, you can touch the bag. I have given you a few examples of objects, but you cannot touch the blueprint, right? So that is why we can say the class is not existing physically. Class is not existing physically. So whenever somebody asks you what is a class, you can give a mix and match, or you can give all these definitions, and the person would obviously be impressed. Let me go to the next section. Okay, by using class, we can create object that I think we have already seen, but we'll be seeing in detail as we go further in our today's class. Let's go to the next. Now, what is an object? What is an object? I told you, class is an object, the house is an object, or the field form with all the employee details, that also is an object. So there are there are objects that you can that exist physically, right? One other example that I've given you is a book, pen, bag, board, etc. All these are objects. Now let's go to the formal definitions of what is an object. By using class, we can create an object. You can ask, sir, you did not teach us about this. Okay, that's fine. I told you how to create an object is our part of our agenda for today. We have learned what is a class definition. We have learned what is an object definition. We are following the agenda only, students. Okay, don't worry. I'll be teaching you how to create an object. But for now, you just think that by using class, we can create objects. Okay. Now, object consists of all properties of the class. Okay. Object consists of all properties of the class. Whenever you read an definition, just think about whatever you have learned previously and you have to correlate. This is another example, or this is another definition of what an object is. Now, let me read out the next one. Let me read out the next one. Let me read out the next one. So what is that? Whenever or whatever properties we define in the class, the objects are requiring all the properties from the class. Even if you fill it or not, even if you want it or not, the object acquires all the properties from the class. Okay. Objects exist physically, right? An object is an instance of a class. Object is an instance of a class. By the way, if you're not understanding a few definitions, which is very well fine, because the moment you start writing the code, the moment you get used to the terminology, all these definitions will come just like that, right? You need not even learn, you need not even remember, or like you need not do anything. All these definitions come just like that. So don't be worried. Let me go to the next part. Now, we have already seen these real-time examples. What is a class and how do we print? And we have already seen this real-time example of what is an object, right? How the students go and how the employees go, they fill their form, etc., etc. These become the objects. Okay. Now, 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 very simple. Let me go to, let me go to, let me go to writing one syntax, a simple syntax for a class. Simple syntax for a class. Okay, you already know how a syntax of a class looks like, but I'd like to make it something like this. Syntax. Okay. So what is the syntax for a class? What is the syntax for a class? So it is like class. I'd like to say class name. Okay, class name, open curly brace, close curly brace, and that's it. That's it. That's it. So what is there inside the class? What is there inside the class? There are two things that are there inside the class. Those are variables, and the other are methods. Okay, others are methods. We have seen what is a method. We have seen what is a variable, right? A class contains variables or methods. Variables or methods. I'd like to give one example. Okay, I'd like to give an example. What is an example for a class? We have already seen writing different classes, but I'd like to give one very small example, which is class. Like maybe I'll call my class as employee. Okay, employee, open braces, close curly braces. And here, let's say there are variables, 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 and then we have methods. Okay, we have variables and we have methods. We have variables and we have methods, right? Very simple. We have syntax. This also we have learned in our previous classes. Now, 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 what else are we going to learn today? What else are we going to learn today? We are going to learn how to create an object. By the way, this is the heart, right? Most important. This is the most, I'd like to say most important, most important point to remember. Okay, this is the most important point to remember how to create an object, which we'll be seeing, which we will be seeing now, which we'll be seeing now. By the way, full concentration over here, guys. So let's go back to our PPT. Yeah. We have already seen what is a class. The class, we have already seen what is a class. It contains data members, or you can say variables or methods. Okay. So this we have seen just now. Now, one example is I've shown you one example of how a class looks like. That example is nothing but employee, and it has variables and it has methods, right? Very simple. But I'd like to give you how a class looks like. Now, let's say a class contains ID, name, and company. Now, let's say if I go here, it has ID, a class. This is a class that I already told you, right? It contains ID, name, and company, right? Similarly, let's say there is a class. There are three instances, or there are three non-static variables, or this we have seen are variables. These variables are ID, name, and company. Now, if I go to enter once more, now there is one more method, which is display name, The syntax that I have given you is there is a class called employee. It has some variables. In our case, the variables are ID, name, and company. And it has some methods. In our case, the name is display name. Okay. The name is, or the method name is display name. That's it. That's it. So let's go to the extra learnings. What is this? This are two sections, the first section and the second section. All right. Let's say what is the first section? What is the first section, students? That is nothing but the non-static variables or instance variables. This I have already shown it to you, right? This I have already shown it to you. What is non-static? By the way, if you do not have a static keyword, then that becomes a non-static, and these are variables that I told you. So class consists of variables, right? And since these do not have static keyword, these becomes non-static variables, or we call them as instance variables. We call them as instance variables that I have written over here. What is an instance? Anything that is non-static is called as instance. Okay, very simple, very simple. If I go to the next, what is this one? What is this section? This section is nothing but non-static methods or instance methods. So all these are non-static methods or instance method. The same thing that we have seen in our syntax learning as well. In our syntax learning as well. Very simple. Let's go to the next section of our today's learning. Now, as I told you, as I told you, this is the most important point to remember. What is the most important point to remember? How do we create an object? Till now, we learned about what is a class. We learned about what is an object, right? We learned about the syntax. We learned about what are the variables and what are the methods that are present inside a class. Okay, inside a class. By the way, all these things we have already learned, but not in this formal way. So now if you had a few questions previously, what is a class and what is an object, etc., etc., all these things would be giving you an answer till now. Now, let's go to the most important part of our today's class, which is how to create an object. How to create an object. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. So when I say, as I told you, we have something called client one. Or before I come even here, let me go to my Notepad++. I want to create I want to create, I want to create one class. We have already seen one example, right? The same thing. Let's try to create. Okay. Let's try to create. I'd like to say class. So this is language Java. Okay. So we have language Java. I I have selected language as Java, which is again all good for me. Now, give me 1 second. Yeah, which is again all good for me. Now, what I want to do is I want to create the example class that we have already seen. So I want to say employee. I want to say employee, open braces, close curly braces. Now here, what is that? Main method, public, static, void, main. So inside this main method, it is string array. string array of arguments. Okay, we have the string array of arguments, open curly braces, closed curly braces, which is very good. Now, what is there? Or I don't even want to write a main method over here. Okay, let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. I don't want to write a main method over here. I want to just write instance variables. I'd like to say instance. Okay, instance variables. What are the instance variables? There are, let's say, as per our diagram, there are three instance variables: ID, name, and company. So what is an ID? It is int ID. So it is int ID. So I'd like to say string name, and then there is one more string company. Okay, there is ID, name, and company. And what is the next step? Learning that we had? It is instance method, right? Instance method. Okay, what is an instance method? What is an instance method? Maybe I'd like to say void public void display name. Okay, I'd like to write this method, open curly brace, and then close curly brace. Right inside this, I want to print name. I want to print name system dot out dot print ln. What do I want to print? What do I want to print? I'd like to print something like this. My name is, let's say, plus name. Okay, that's it. I just want to print my name. There are instance variables. There are instance methods. This code that we have already written. This code we have already written. Sir, till now, in every code that you have written, you have written the main method. Why did you not write the main method over here? Why did you not write the main method over here? Yeah, I'd be coming to that part. But just you remember that this is a class and we are making it as employee. There are instance variables and there are instance methods. Now, I would like to save this one. I'd copy this one and like to say file save as. So we have in the multiple classes, instead of creating it over here, I would like to create a new folder over here. I'd like to create a new folder over here and would like to I'd like to say new folder. So I would like to call it as class and object. So I'd like to create a class and object folder, and inside this, I would like to create it as employee.java. Yes, I created employee.java. Now, sir, okay, I understand that this is a class, this is a blueprint, this is not real world, this is everything. I learned everything. Okay, but how do we test this, sir? How do we test this, sir? So for that, let's try to write one client code. So what I do is I'd like to write one new Java class. I'd like to call it as language Java. I'd like to say class client. Okay, so I'd like to say class client open. Okay, open braces and close braces. So here I would like to write a main method, public static void main. So here I'd like to say string array of arguments. Okay, I'd like to say string array of arguments. I am opening the braces and closing the braces. So here, what I want to do is I want to do two things. I want to do two things. Okay, create object to employee. Okay, then one more thing is access employee variables and methods. Okay, so these are the two things that I would like to do as part of this code, So very careful, very careful. Try to understand or try to put all your concentration on whatever we are going to learn over here. Now we have a main method, right? I have mine is a 2-point agenda now, right? How to create an object to employee, and how do we access that employee variables and methods in this client code. Okay, so let me go to my PPT. I would like to, sorry, I would like to actually tell you how do we create objects. I'd like to actually tell you how do we create an object. So here what I did is I created a class and I've written public static void main string array of args. Now, if I go here, you see this line, employee E1 is equal to new employee of, right? The line that you are able to see over here is the heart of whatever we are learning today and whatever you'd be learning in your future or further classes of Java, right? Employee E1 is equal to new employee of. This line is the one that actually creates an object, right? I'll be giving you a breakup of what this line actually is doing, but you see employee E1 equal to new employee of. This is the line that is responsible for creating an object. Now, let me break up that line for you. Let me break up that line for you. What is that? We have employee E1 is equal to new employee of, right? Let me quickly go and write it over here also. So what is that? Employee E1 equal to new employee of, right? I created an object over here on line number 6, the same thing that I've seen. But there are three things over here. There is an equal to symbol. There is a section of the code that is right side to it. There is a section of the code that is left side to it. What is this? What is this? Let's try to break up. Let's try to break the things into pieces so that we can actually understand. Now, if I go here to the section that is to my right side of the equal to symbol, what is this one? What is this one? What is this one? This is nothing but the object creation or instantiating the employee class. This new employee of is the one that actually creates the object, Now let's go to the next one. What is the section of the line that is present left side to the equal to symbol? What is that? What is that? That is nothing but creating a reference variable, I shown you, or I have told you what is a variable. I think I have told you what is a reference variable. Any non-static variable is called as a reference variable, that I have already told you. And what about the middle one? What about this equal to symbol, right? What about this equal to symbol, right? This equal to symbol is nothing but linking the object with the reference variable, a reference variable. This is how you actually create the object. By the way, this is the most important concept, most important theory that you'd be learning about in the Java, whole Java series, be it advanced or be it in whichever category, right? You have to understand this particular line. Employee E1 is equal to new employee of. What is new employee? It is actually creating the object. What is employee one? It is the reference variable. What is the equal to symbol? This is linking the reference variable to the actual object. Now, what I'd like to do is, instead of showing it over here, I would like to actually open. I'd like to actually open. I'd like to actually open my draw.io. Right. In this, as I told you, I have heap memory. All right. Previously, I think I already told you we have heap memory. Inside heap memory, no, give me a second. Yeah, this is nothing but previously we were speaking about the static, right? So that is Java stack area. So this is stack area. But where are objects created? Objects are created in a place that we actually call as heap. Okay, objects are created in the Java memory section, which we actually call as heap, right? That is very good. That is very good. So now what I'd like to do is, I have something like this. I have something like this. I have something like this. This is an employee object, right? This is an employee object. Give me a second, guys. So we have an object something like this. We have an object something like this. What is this object? What is this object? How is this object created? How is this object created? This is created as I told you. How do I create this object? That is because of the new keyword. That is because of the new keyword. When I do something like this, an object gets created. When I just do something like this, an object gets created. So I'd like to say this is an employee object. So I'd like to say this is an employee object, or maybe I'd like to say this is an employee object. Give me a second. Employee. Okay. Yeah. So this is an employee object. This we have already seen over here. And by the way, what is there inside this employee object? What is there inside this employee object? Let me copy whatever we had. Let me copy whatever we had in employee, right? I'd like to copy all this. I'd like to copy all this. And what I'd like to do is I want to maybe remove all the unnecessary things. I'd like to remove the comments. I'd like to remove the comments, and I would like to even remove the system.out.println statement just for my understanding or difference. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to copy all this and paste it over here. What is the content of my object? This is the content of my object. This is the content of my object. Give me a second. Okay, this is the content of my object. So let me bring it to my middle. Yeah. So these are member variables, or I'd like to say is non-static variables, and this is a method. This is the content of my employee object. So how is this employee object created like this? That's because of this piece of code. So what is that? We have already seen that. What is that? It is because of this new employee, right? I told you because of this only an object gets created. Now I have a reference variable. I have a reference variable that is created outside the heap. Maybe I'd like to say there is some text. Okay. I'd like to say, I would like to say, maybe I'd like to say this is employee E1. Okay, I have an employee E1, right? So let me just drag it. I have an employee E1, and this one I am linking this one. This E1 is something that is created outside my heap. It is not an object. It is created outside my heap in Java, right? Now, there is one more that I told you. What is that? There is a linkage because of this equal to symbol. The reference variable is getting linked to the object that you created. So let me link both. So maybe I'd like to say, sorry, maybe I'd like to say that there is a linkage to this. Now we are linking the employee E1 to the object that we have created inside the heap. So this is what happens internally. This is what happens internally when you try to create an object that gets created because of the new keyword, and a reference variable called E1 gets created outside the heap area. And because of the equal to symbol, this reference variable is getting linked to this object. It's getting linked to this object, right? So let me quickly again go to my PPT. So let me quickly go to my PPT. So this is how you create an object, but there are some values that you have given, right? So previously we have seen some example. There are a few values that you have given, right? These are the values that you have given. Sir, how are we giving these values then? Now I understand that you have created an object, not one object, but there are three objects. Now, maybe I'd like to write code for the same. I'd like to write code for the same. E1 is equal to new employee of, which is very good. What I'd like to do is I want to print these values and to print these values. I'd like to print these values. So I'd like to say system dot out dot print ln. I'd like to print these values. I'd like to print these values, and I will say ID equal to name equal to company equal to. Okay, so I'd like to say ID equal to plus ID. Okay, plus ID. So here I would like to say name equal to company equal to. So company equal to. By the way, there is one thing, right? How do we access? How do we access the variable names? How do we access the variables? It is by using the object name, by using the instance variable. So I'd like to say e1 dot id. This is e1 dot name. This is e1 dot company. Okay. So what I did is I created an object. And I'm printing all these values. I'm printing all these values ID, name, and company. ID, name, and company. So what I would like to do is, I would like to quickly go and try to compile, or maybe I'll save this one also, client. I'll say Control S, Control S. I created a new folder, and here I'd like to say .java, right? .java. So I'll quickly go here. We already know what is, how do we, this is not class and object. Okay, this is Mercy 2025. Let's go here. And we have created a new folder that I'm calling as class and object. Here I'd like to say CMD. Okay, I would like to say CMD. Let me maximize the screen for you. Right. So I'll say Java C employee dot Java. Yes, I'm able to compile it properly. Now I'd like to compile client also. Java C client dot Java. So I have two classes. I have two classes. I have an employee class. I have a client class. Now there should be two dot class files also. You can see these are created just now 829, 829, right? We have a client dot class file and we have a employee dot class file. So what I'd like to do is I want to just call Java client dot Java. Okay, client. I'm just running the client because client only has the main method. Client only has the main method. So the control JVM will call this main method and we should be able to print all these things. All right. So let me go here. And you can see there are some values that got printed, which is ID equal to 0, name equal to null, company equal to null. Previously, I told you, since we are not assigning any of these values, these are default values. Default values for an integer is 0. Default value for any non-primitive Java type is null. This we have already seen. So this is a primitive integer type and these are non-primitive or string types. So since these are non-primitive, the default values are null. So, sir, okay, fine. I'm able to understand all this, sir. So, but I want to see something in action. I want to see something like in action. I want to print something like this. ID equal to 100, name equal to Mercy, company is equal to Google. How do I do it, sir? So it's okay. Let's do it. So I would like to say e1 dot id. So I'm just assigning some values. E1 dot id is equal to, what is the value? 100, right? And then e1 dot what is the next one? Name equal to, let's say, Mercy. And then one more, e1 dot company. What is the company? Google, right? Say, right, simple, Google, right? So after this, maybe I would like to print some dashes. I'd like to say, okay, I'd like to print some dashes. And I would like to print all these once more. After instantiating. So what I did over here is, I'm instantiating these with Mercy, Google, Mercy, 100 Mercy and Google. Now let's try to run this once more and see what we are getting as output. What we are getting as output. So Java C client.java. Yes, there is no compile time error, right? Let's try to run this. Now you can see initially the values are 0, null and null, but now the values became 100 Mercy and Google. 100 Mercy and Google. The point that I wanted to actually highlight over here is what is the default value of this ID? What is the default value of this ID that got created with 0? And then what is the default value of name, which is null because it is a non-primitive one? What is the default value of company, which is again null? But later on, what we are trying to do is we are instantiating it with a value of, what is the value that we used? We used 100. We used 100. So what happens is this value called 0 gets striked off, and then that becomes 100. Now again, so what happens is here it is not null, but it is Mercy. It is Mercy. So it should not be null. Now again, company, what is the company? It is Google, right? Again, this is getting struck off. So this is how we are accessing. So this one last thing that we'll be learning as part of our today's class, and we can wind up is, sir, you have taught us how do we access the reference variables? How do we access the reference variables? But can you access the method also? What is the method? The instance method? It is display name. It is display name. So let's try to access the method. So what I'd like to do is in the system.out.println, I would like to say calling, or maybe I'd like to say you don't even have anything. I'd like to say even dot. What is the method name? The method name is display name. Copy, and you're saying display name. Okay, so you're calling the display name. Okay, the same thing after instantiating. Let's say you want to call this once more. The same thing after instantiating, you are calling it once more. Even dot display name you're calling here. And then after instantiating with all this, you want to call the display name. Let's see how the output differs right now. So I'm just saving it once more, the client.java. So would like to go over here and like to compile this, right? Would like to compile this. What is that? Java. I would like to use my up arrow, Java C client.java. Yes, I'm able to. Void is not allowed here. Okay, fine. So let's not call system.out.println because it's not returning anything, because this display name is returning me void. So I will, instead of putting this in system.out.println, I would like to directly call this. I need not display it in the system.out.println. So again, here also, instead of putting system.out.println, I would like to directly call this even dot display name. Even dot display name. So instead of putting that in system.out.println, I'm directly calling the display name. Let's see what happens. I'd like to compile this. Now there are no problems, and I would like to run this. So Java, right? So what happens? Let me come down. Now you can see my name is null. This is coming. But later on, after you instantiated the object, you're saying my name is Mercy. So very, very simple, very easy to understand, very easy to remember. So our agenda has been completed for whatever we thought of learning for today. What we thought is how to create an object, which we have seen. This is the most important point to remember. And then how do we call or invoke the instance methods or variables that we have already seen. So today's class is very, 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 very important, as I have already told you previously. So keep all this in mind and try to practice fully. So I'd like to take a few more minutes. I'd like to take a few more minutes and try to give you a few important points. I'd like to give you a few important points, or maybe I'll be sharing that as part of my notes. I'll be sharing that as part of my notes to you. So I'll be sharing all the programs. I'll be sharing all the sketches that I have done as part of our today's class. Mm, okay, so give me a second.